make sure you have clarity on what you want to accomplish, and then don't lose sight of the focus. Try and block out as much of the noise as possible.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are approaching 50 episodes with In the Trenches. And where we are today, January, recording here now in 2021, we're almost coming up on 1 year. And I can't believe how fast time has flown by. When we started this series, we were right in the early stages of both COVID-19 and the effects it had on all the gyms around the country, not only around the country, but of course around the world. And so In the Trenches was designed originally as a storytelling vehicle to motivate and inspire and provide a framework for leaders looking for either systems and processes, but moreover, just even some inspiration to kind of collectively work together through the problem and kind of solve what they were going through. We brought on some motivational folks like Coach Mike Bergner, as well as Annie Sakamoto. And we had a chance to even move down to games level coaches and gym owners like Doug Chapman and Zach's favorite, Dusty Highland. And there's a lot of started to pivot to the digital display and or the digital service and offerings at their gyms. We brought on some titans of tech like Miranda of Street Parking, as well as Layla Hormozi of Gym Launch. We had a chance to really dig in with a handful of folks that have moved off and created different brands. We talked to OPEX's former CEO, Jim Crowell. We brought on some folks from both Mad Lab as well as Two Brain senior mentors. So we've had a chance to really dig through and bring on some good friends, some really good coaches, and some great businessmen. And as we approach 50, I thought to myself, what am I doing? I work at PushPress, and we have about 20 folks that are excellent, not only at what they do for you as gym owners, but are all generally former gym owners. And so I thought it'd be great to kind of start to shine the spotlight at those folks that are literally in the trenches working for PushPress on behalf of you. And so I'm really happy to bring not only an old friend, an excellent coach, a veteran as well, Zach Forrest. Welcome, brother.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I am so glad we got a chance to carve out some time today. It is about 42 degrees here in Southern California. What's it like in Vegas today?
It rained yesterday, actually the day before. It's been kind of cloudy and overcast, but this is about as wintry as we get in Las Vegas. So it'll brighten back up and start to heat back up here within the week. But I mean, it's sitting early mornings, it's sitting high 30s, low 40s, and then it gets up to about high 50s later in the day.
Not bad. I really love watching your training videos, and I know some folks were giving you a hard time the other day about what you were wearing. They said, "Wait, what? You're in Vegas. What are you doing?"
Yeah, I had a specific commenter comment on the fact that I was wearing a hoodie. And you wake up that morning and you touch that cold barbell. You do not want. It's like one of the most bone-chilling sensations. You grab that hard steel and you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. So The hoodie is my small comfort until I get real warmed up. Yeah, exactly.
So the folks that are following you today, I mean, obviously they're watching your training. They know what you've gotten yourself into. But I think for a significant segment of our audience, these people know you from different times in your life. I would say the majority of them know you for your work with HQ, on the coach's staff or the trainer's staff. They might know you from your role at the games. Newer folks might know Tactical Games, but let's back up. This is classically a discussion around leadership. And some folks got a chance, at least the individuals that have presented on these episodes, have had a chance to point backward in their life, whether it was a teacher in high school, a coach in college, a drill instructor or a BUDS instructor in the military. It could have been someone they've run into. If you had to think back to where you were first most impressed by leadership or someone who was able to captivate you, where do you think you would go back to? Does anybody stick out from your past?
I mean, I think I've been extremely lucky, #blessed, whatever you want to say, in my exposure to different leaders. I mean, the earliest leadership I can remember would go back to my parents, and maybe some teachers in elementary school. Actually, definitely some teachers in elementary school and some coaches. But like speaking with parents, I think a lot of obviously personal beliefs, character development, but as far as leadership goes, I think a lot of leadership qualities develop or they stem from family life first and foremost. And I, at a very young age, I can't remember exactly how young I was, but I had the opportunity to go um, hang out with my parents while they were doing their jobs. I remember very vividly a couple trips. My mom worked for this company called Executone, and it was a telecommunications company, and she was in charge of training these companies up on how to employ their system, the telephone, the telecommunication system. And I just remember going with her on some of these training visits to other companies, and the way that she was able to command the room, and the way that she was able to field questions. And I don't even realize like what she was doing. Is it was more of like the presence and her yeah, exactly, her personification. I don't even know how to explain it, but that was probably my first exposure to like, wow, here's someone able to command a group very, very well. My dad was a manager at a hotel, and I got to see how I would follow him around through this hotel in Jackson, New Hampshire, which was like one of those historic hotels, and it was like a classic bed and breakfast, but it was one of the larger ones in town. I got to follow him around and see how he would talk to his employees, his staff, his team. And so like I think from a very young age I was just observant of people in management and leadership roles. Now there is a difference between management and leadership, but then I think I developed a kind of uh, I don't want to say a taste for, but like a an ability to see as as I got older who was good at leading a group and being in front of people and putting on the show versus who struggled with those skills. Like coaches, like it was very easy for me to see um, which of my sports coaches. I remember specifically there was a very big difference between my baseball coach and my football coach. And my football coach
Did he
was
turn it on?
very, what's that?
He could turn it on.
Yeah, well, he was also our history teacher in high school, and he was just
Always
very,
teacher.
yeah,
That was
exactly. Yeah, yeah, always, right? But it was just a stark difference between their ability to be a leader and serve as an example and inspire. So in the military, it became even more apparent. And I think just as I get older, I'm quicker to identify the people that have those that skill set. So yeah.
from like a characteristic standpoint. This question comes up a lot, particularly for folks that are like sending questions in to like ask different folks. From a leadership standpoint, do you believe that the innate characteristics necessary to lead or inspire, are we born with it, or is it developed through our process as we grow?
I think everybody has to some extent the ability to lead, the ability to inspire. What I think some people are more lucky than others are that they are put into a situation at a certain point in their life that exploits that ability. So it's kind of like a scenario based thing. Like in the military, I was not a leader, and I had to learn a lot. I wanted to be a leader, but it was not, especially in the younger years, like when I would say probably the first 3 years of being in the military, I was very anti-authority, and the scenario wasn't conducive to my ability to inspire and lead. And as I became more experienced and more comfortable with the structure of the military, and I was able to identify opportunities where I could be a leader, it became a little bit better. I don't think I became a leader until I was forced to become a leader in the role of a business owner, to be honest.
Well, that's
Um, yeah,
what rank did you end up exiting service as?
I was an E5, so second class petty officer. Yeah,
Was is that did you get a chance to explore any leadership roles there prior to exiting, or were you
not
in a
formally,
yeah?
not formally. So it's like when, especially in the teams, it's not like you have your LPO and your CPO and um, the formal leadership, but at at my level, it was more of like a mentor role to brand new people. Like we had to be a leader to be a leader, like to function on the team. Like if you first and foremost have to lead yourself. You have to be disciplined. You have to exert some certain characteristics of self-management, self-leadership, and discipline, obviously. But there wasn't anybody formally underneath me in the chain of command, even like when I got out. But as far as like mentoring new guys and making sure that they were taken care of and they had their head on straight, that was kind of like a big brother kind of leadership role. So there were some opportunities for me to lead in giving briefs or like workup sheets and stuff like that, where yeah, exactly, where I would be in charge of certain aspects, but that would be the extent of it in the military. But being a business owner, I had to be a leader first and foremost to my community before I even hired anybody. I didn't really understand how much of a leadership role coaching was. And when you are given that, I want to say authority, but it's kind of like a responsibility. It's kind of like when people pay you to be the expert, you have to step into that leadership role. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's bridge that gap real quick between exiting service and maybe stumbling into the landscape of CrossFit. Was that a transition that was almost immediate for you? Because I actually don't know. Were you involved in developing curriculum for physical training and readiness preparation? And then did that transition into coaching, or did you hit the ground and find CrossFit elsewhere?
Yeah, so that actually, you know what, I should back up and say, like, I kind of was placed into a leadership role when I was in the military. The I was pegged early on, and I'm not sure, I can't remember why I was pegged early on, but um, there was this initiative. It was called HPI, Human Performance Initiative, at Team 4, and Dr. Woods was in charge of this, and he was a civilian doctor who was put in charge of developing a physical training program that would develop a peak readiness state, essentially. And it was a GPP program, and he and I worked together to like put out demo videos and to develop training sessions for the squads, the platoons, the troops, and then conduct the training of the guys. And so in that sense, I kind of was in a leadership role, in the sense that like I would be there as like an assistant coach. He would lead the sessions and do all the heavy lifting, so to speak, for the development. But training, bridging the gap between training SEALs and that certain mindset, and then going to the civilian side, very, very, very different leadership skills required. And it became very apparent the very first time that I had to coach civilians. And it wasn't that I was bad at it. It was almost like clumsy and awkward. So in a sense, I was bad at it, but I had to change the verbiage I used. I had to change the tone. But the one thing that, exactly, yeah. But the one thing that did not change, that I think carried over the most, was the enthusiasm and the passion. And it was just redirecting it. So like I am extremely passionate about helping people through physical activity, through physical discomfort. Someone can learn a lot about themselves and improve their life. And I had to realize I first had to understand what I was so passionate about in order to leverage that into leading people better. So that was me bridging the gap.
And so, what, if I may ask, what year was that? There was an exit in service, there was a ramp up into CrossFit?
Yep. That was 2008.
2008. Okay, right.
2008 is when I got out, and that was the ramp up. But I started HPI. I think started at Team 4 in around 2005. I want to say maybe 2006. I can't remember the exact year, but I found CrossFit in 2005. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so, did you know, like almost immediately, I can take what I've developed, what I've learned, how I've molded myself, and move into this coaching role? Did you know you wanted to go own it right away, or did you end up working your way up through either HQ? Did you intern for a gym? What did that space look like in the development of what was to become Max Effort?
So I knew that I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to help people. And I just didn't know how I was going to be able to support a lifestyle doing that. So again, at that point in time, micro gyms were relatively new. CrossFit affiliates, there was maybe less than 100. Yeah, I
Yep.
think yeah, I'm not exactly sure how many were on the board yet, but
Yeah.
but I started doing more research essentially and figuring out like, oh, do I need to go get, NASM or CSCS or
Yep.
something like that in order to make money? And I realized like being a coach or a trainer, that's one way to do it. But I'm like, why don't I just open up a gym?
The
And
owner.
so yeah, exactly. I had been working with Joe Marsh, who was the original owner of CrossFit Las Vegas.
Yep.
Upon getting out of the military, just taking classes. And then at one point he stepped away and he was like, I have to go out of town for 3 weeks, death in the family, funeral, and I have to coordinate a bunch of stuff. And I was like, you know what? I've coached. Let me run the classes while you're gone. And he was like, okay. So he kind of just gave me the keys to the space. And for 3 weeks, I realized like we can turn this into something bigger
Big.
than the 15-person classes. We have 15 people that show up 3 times a week for a class right now. Cool. And so when he got back, we formalized a partnership agreement and we decided to open up an official CrossFit Las Vegas. Cause at that point, I think we were subleasing and running classes in the park. It was a combination. And, and that's where it started. So that was me taking the step saying like, cool, we can, we can develop a life with this
And actually
uh
make
vehicle. Yeah, exactly. And
it
so
wild.
understanding that, yeah.
I was going to say, isn't it wild to think here it is 2021, what's available to affiliate owners, coaches, GMs, junior coaches,
Oh my
interns, all
gosh.
processes. Go back to that 2008, 7, 6, 5, all the looking around in the dark in a flashlight. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was either making it up as they went along or looking over the fence like that didn't
What's
work
this
for them,
industry doing? Yeah.
but that is working. I mean, I can't tell
Then
you how
that's
many times
essentially,
it's wild.
well, that's the combination. Being an entrepreneur, you kind of have to have certain leadership skills. And I think that is definitely a leadership skill, is being able to look where for solutions where a lot of people normally wouldn't. And you're absolutely right. Back in that time period, there was no information on how to do things successfully. There was kind of like an idea or a concept that was floating around on the interwebs vaguely. And it was just like, okay, you kind of have to take this and make it your own. And then there was the methodology. So what I ended up doing with Joe was we were like, well, we're pioneers. We have to consider ourselves pioneers. We're pioneers for our customers, and we're pioneers for CrossFit specifically. So let's look at what other affiliates, the 20 that are out there right now. Let's see what they're doing. Let's really understand the methodology so we can also think about the best way to deliver this. And then let's really look at other industries and see how
Yep.
the problems that they're facing are similar to the problems that we're facing and take what we can and implement it. And so it was really interesting looking at like restaurant businesses, because my parents are both entrepreneurs. After that story that I told you about, mom working for Executive and dad being the manager, they went on to open up their own a few businesses since then. So, and one of them was a bakery cafe. So the food industry, and looking at some parallels, and seeing how the employees and the customers and how you lead them in that industry versus our industry. You're right. Nowadays, there are so many tools and there's so much information available to someone that wants to get started. It's insane, actually. It's overwhelming, actually. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine either where would I rather be, because I think we're both in a similar scenario where we've sold and kind of moved away from ownership of a brick and mortar facility. Would I want to open again today with what's available today, or would I want to take the information that I know today and put it back in 2006? I don't know. I don't know which way I'd want to go. Maybe I'd want to take the information and go back and kind of start it all over again. Definitely
So that would
experience.
give you the biggest advantage, definitely. But like, I that's a good question, and I think it specifically speaks to the type of leader a person is. I
Sure.
would feel more comfortable in that latter situation where it's like, hey, put me back in 2005, 2008, because my personality type, my leadership style is conducive to a blank market.
Yep.
Now you put me in something that's a hyper competitive market with an abundance of information and wealth, and it's like the skill set needed to be successful has
Totally.
been tweaked a little bit. It's yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I mean, there's some things that you still need, but it would not rely on as much of the other stuff. So it is. You're right. It is different. Very different.
You know, there was a I don't think it ever made it ever to be pitched for a reality TV series. And it may have come up in our episode, but I can't remember. But Jeremy Thiel, remember Jeremy from Austin, right?
Yep.
He said,
Central. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, CrossFit Central. He said, here's a great opportunity to showcase and test some of our best coaches and entrepreneurs. We'll take 10 gym owners, give them $0, but we're going to drop them off in a brand new city. And we're going to give them 3 months to stand up a brand new gym, and we're going to compare them against each other after, you know, whatever, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And I was like, man, let's do it. Let's film this. Let's see how this could go. And
Wow.
I always would just, you know, back and forth, like, what would you do first? What would you do second? You've got zero resource. How do you communicate? How are you getting the word around? Like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, man,
Yeah.
not much different than what we were doing back in the beginning.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, that would be such a cool experiment to do. Um, It would be
Today,
very hard. Yeah, even today, it would be very hard to control certain variables. Like you think about it, back in the day, social media wasn't a thing when we
yep,
started. Like Facebook was barely a thing. MySpace was a thing. Like Instagram didn't come out until 4 or 5 years later. So it was very very
you had
much
a
different.
website, some business cards, and maybe that was it.
Yep,
That was all.
exactly. So to think about starting right now with $0 and maybe an Instagram account,
Yep. You could pick one social media channel. That'd
that
be a
would
rad.
be a really cool challenge. Yeah,
Dig
that'd
it.
be a really cool challenge.
So
Yeah.
speaking of challenges, you got a chance then to kind of go from this beginning step and kind of maneuver your way through. You probably had interpersonal growth or interpersonal challenges as well as professional, financial, uh, developing coaching. I mean, and also, by the way, building this gym or building what was to become the gym, you were working for HQ. So you were
Right.
off.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you were taken off. Were you hitting seminars, the seminar series once a month? Were you going twice a month? How far were you being pulled away?
Yeah. So I didn't officially get on staff until about 2010. And there was definitely a period where, as the growth of the gym picked up and as it demanded more time, I had to step away and coach for seminar staff a lot less, to the point where it was like once every 4 to 6 weeks. But and that was like I want to say that was between like 2013, 2015, somewhere in there. Or maybe like 2011 to 2014, somewhere in there. It was like a 2 year period, really, now that I think about it. But other than that, I was working probably one seminar every other week, every 2 to 3 weeks, I would say.
Right.
And obviously, anytime we had one in Vegas, I would work it. And then they kind of restrict you or relegate you
Yeah.
to a certain region. So in California, a lot of the seminars were blowing up in the Southwest, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Utah, Colorado, Nevada area, and that's where I would be sent a lot. And it's currently where I work a lot. But every now and then they'd also like Argentina, go to Paris and Manchester, England. So
England.
it's like, yeah, it was very Canada. I think I've done like one or two in Canada. But it's because CrossFit was growing so fast, and our ability to keep up with demand was hard pressed. Yeah.
Yep. Do you feel that you were able to, like, because obviously you saw the growth and transition from, I mean, what I can say is I got a chance to see the almost no or lower standards amongst the seminar staff to very tightened professional, like legit standards. You got to ride that whole wave, like
Right.
see
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So
And that became very apparent. And actually, it was kind of a frustrating. It was probably a pain point for the higher ups. I can't really say, but it was definitely something that was visible to a lot of people on staff, in the sense that it our standards became more stringent, but they didn't become more, I don't know what the word is, not exclusive. They didn't become more occlusive, I guess, in the sense that everybody that was currently on staff, when the standards were released, it was kind of like one of those things where like, yeah, we all meet those standards, but why are we having them? And it's because we need a filtration process, because the seminar staff was being looked at as rock stars. We had a dream job and everybody wanted the job, became high demand, and we were getting a lot of these people who just weren't aware of the level of coaching that was, of the level of expertise and performance that was needed. So you'd get interns that didn't really know how to coach. They might know all the information, but as far as teaching or seeing
Like
movement and correcting it, yeah, it wasn't
command.
there. And it became actually an eye opener, I think, to the rest of the staff, because a lot of people on staff, if you until recently, you look at their skill set in the gym, coach, seeing, like teaching, seeing and correcting the things that we talked about at the level 2, those skills were very, very natural for them. And so it's very hard to self-identify skills that are natural, like you're naturally inclined to be good at. And it probably took a good amount of people to figure out that list of things that we were looking for, because you, especially the OGs, they were all so naturally occurring that they weren't obvious,
Right. So
if
they
that
couldn't
makes sense.
like this is what we're looking for in the new
Yeah.
hires or the new folks.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was kind of like a trial and error process, is what it seemed, but it was a necessary one. And I think it's what has allowed us to keep the standard of training that HQ gives, is it's unparalleled. Like I still, and I try and get outside of get courses outside. Like I still have yet to find a staff that can deliver training in any area as well as we deliver it. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but like I'm just talking from a public speaking or a presentation um, aspect. It's phenomenal. Yeah,
Not only is done well once, but done well consistently across the
every
board,
weekend.
team for team for team for team, all the way around.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd be hard pressed to go to a level 1 seminar and have a bad weekend, like professionally, like delivered professionally from the staff. Yeah, like I
Right
don't
on.
think it happens, to be
So I
honest.
mean, that
Yeah.
obviously gave you a significant leg up, not only who you were as owner, but then what you were doing professionally on behalf of CrossFit. You got a chance to go back to Vegas and infuse that knowledge, that expectation, that experience for your coaches or for the folks that wanted to be groomed under your team, correct?
Precisely. Yeah. And so when a lot of people say like, "Oh my God, I can't believe what you built," it's like I literally just took what I was being forced to learn on staff, and I supplanted it in my home gym. And it was it wasn't a creation of mine, it was a replication of mine. And I don't know what that saying is. It's like good artists borrow or great artists steal or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what I did. I looked at the quality of service that we were able to give on a weekend basis from a team that would be pulled from a bunch of different areas, come together and deliver that. And I'm like, how can I replicate this? How can I get my coaches to realize they think the standard's here, but it's here, and they're actually capable of this? So that was probably the most important aspect of business leadership, was realizing that your staff, the standard that your staff will operate at, is completely set by you, in the sense that like if you allow substandard performance, it's going to happen.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. So you have to do two things. You have to set the standard, and then you have to lead by example.
Crushing that standard all the time, like
Right.
no question about it. That actually brings me to the lessons learned portion, because we'll always ask folks to kind of dig back in to their journey as either owner or GM or head coach. Where did you fall down as owner or leader? Where did you struggle and either have to pull yourself up or wake yourself up, or identify like, dude, this is something I need to get right now? If you were to look back at that ownership piece.
So I'm gonna break down my answer into two parts. The things,
Sure.
because it took me realizing what I was doing really, really well to realize what I was doing poorly and fix it. So what I was doing really, really well was leading by example. And it's because it was easy for me. And it's because of either my military background or my exposure to HQ.
Right.
So I was always able to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And what I was doing really, really well was also, man, that sounded really arrogant now that I think about it, but I didn't mean it that
Well,
way.
we'll edit that part a little bit out.
Whatever. But
That's gonna be the teaser. That's
yeah,
it.
there you go. But and I was always really good at leading my clients, my customers. I was always really good at leading the community, but leading my staff and my team, because I'm naturally a self-starter and I am naturally uh, like when a problem is presented to me, it's like I will go out and figure out how to fix it. I don't need to be told how to fix it.
Right.
And I expected that of my staff. And what I realized was you need
Yeah.
staff to everybody learns and handles those things differently. And so one of the things that I struggled with hard was figuring out how to communicate to different types of people on my team effectively to get the end result that I wanted, but also um, giving them the tools that that person as an individual needed. So leading a team is really understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each member as it pertains to whatever their role is, and helping them to shore up the weaknesses. So I always thought leading was more akin to management. I'm going to set the bar and I'm going to give you the deadline. I'm going to give you the parameters, and you're either going to meet it or you're not. And no, 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 no. That's management. Leading them is understanding what their struggles are and giving them the tools or facilitating their growth so that they can overcome those struggles. That's a big aspect of leadership that I had to learn. And I didn't learn that until maybe the last 2 years of Max Effort's tenure. So yeah.
Man, that takes a huge amount of both humility but also maturity. I mean, I don't think we couldn't expect that out of you, or you couldn't expect it in year one. It's almost
Oh,
as
no
if
way.
you needed the time to run its course for you to sit back and go, I need to change some things in order for me to
Yep.
like push forward.
Yep.
So as that realization came to you, the sun was kind of setting on your ownership role. What does life look like for you today? Because you're not in charge of Max Effort. It is no longer your baby.
No.
What's up to today?
So I mean, as far as leadership is concerned, I'm still on staff, and I've neglected, I've put off climbing the ladder in seminar staff. So like, I'm not a flow master or anything. My leadership in on seminar staff is just mostly as a veteran staff trainer. I'm probably one of the longest standing members of the training department at this point. Probably, I mean, within the top 10, I would assume, but I'm not exactly sure. So when I go and I work seminars, as far as leadership is concerned, there for other members, I have to walk the walk. It's doing what I'm usually been good at, and that's just setting the example, leading by example, and obviously helping on any level that I possibly can. But for push press and for the tactical games, leadership manifests in almost the same way as it manifested in the military, in the sense that like I have to be a good follower first. I'm no longer the owner. I'm no longer the top of the pyramid in that sense. I have to be a good follower first, and then as opportunities present themselves to be a leader, I have to step up, and that's kind of nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like on demand spot leadership, and I don't think I would be able to perform nearly as well if I hadn't been in that ownership role to begin with. So yeah.
I dig it. I don't know if many folks that are watching recognize, um, the fulfillment that folks at PushPress get. As owners, we get a chance to touch a few hundred people, coach, teach, train. You step back and you now work for a software company that teaches or communicates and helps a few thousand folks. I mean, it's almost
Yeah.
like on the same path. You could coach a couple of trainers in your home gym, or you could coach hundreds of trainers that then go out and touch thousands of clients, right?
Exactly. And that's always, especially when I work with other owners, that's always either on staff or with push press, that's always at the forefront of my mind. It's like you are helping these people so that they can help hundreds of other people themselves. When you're the owner of a gym, yeah, you're focused on helping the couple hundred, 300-400 people that are in front of you, like your members. You got to take care of your community.
Yep.
And I want so much for every single affiliate owner to be the absolute best at that. But I realize now my role, leadership wise, is to help people do that. So I can now effectively help thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, if I help the people that are helping those groups of hundreds. And that's a different. And so I'm no longer training athletes. I'm trying to be trying to train leaders, is what
Right.
essentially is. When you're coaching owners or coaching coaches, you're training leaders. Yeah.
Yep. You're developing the next evolution, or you're developing the next the crew that will then spend the next 10 years maturing and developing, and in turn
Yes.
passing down these principles, or passing down the expectations, the standards, and
And
so
so the
on.
goal is just those tools. It's like I can teach coaches how to teach, see, correct, but but things like passion, can't really teach that. I can teach public speaking skills, but things like empathy, very hard to teach that. So it really comes down to also the type of person that is willing to take on the tools that are put in front of them. And that's just it's a numbers game at this point. If I talk to 1,000 people and 500 of them are willing to take on those tools and the other 500 aren't, I'm happy to keep helping those original 500. Yeah.
Right. Those folks that come back and they keep either wanting more or interested in getting to that next level.
Yep.
That's a struggle point, I think, for a lot of folks that work in a mentorship role, or at least in a leadership role, is they love and they care to help, but they have to recognize that not everybody is willing to accept help yet.
Yep.
Like
that is a huge hurdle for a lot of people in leadership roles, because you yourself, you want to help, and you wouldn't be able to think, well, why doesn't this person want me to help? Why is this person fighting me? Why is this person giving me resistance? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's that's a them issue.
That's a huge, like, it's a burnout for, I think, for a lot of coaches that try to pour in so much, even at the lowest level, coach to client, one-to-one, give, pour, educate, and the clients, they walk away. Right.
Yep.
And you got to kind of step back and go, I did the best I can.
Yep.
Same thing here at PushPress, working with gym owners, working with different teams, different organizations. Man, you did the best you can. You organized the best you can. You taught the best you can. You gave the best examples, provided the best tools. Some coaches, some gym owners, they're going to love it. They're going to be like, dude,
Yep.
You saved my business through COVID. You helped me pivot to digital marketing. You helped me with Facebook ads. You helped me organize my books. I learned how to do QuickBooks, or I work, whatever, during COVID. Other coaches, they just hands up, done.
Yep.
I'm finished. Walk away.
And so what's helped me deal with that, because that's frustrating. That's definitely frustrating as a coach of coaches, or someone that's trying to develop leaders. And what I've realized is I have to take the perspective, and this is for me personally, this might not work for everybody, but I have to take the perspective that even though this person may not be leveraging everything that I taught them right now, that doesn't mean that in 2-3 years from now, my interactions with them haven't made their mark. It's like I still remember like things that I learned 5, 6, 7 years ago that I didn't really give the time of day back then, but
Yep.
they were still stuck in my head. And nowadays I'm just like, oh man, that was actually a really good thing that I was exposed to. And I'm now grateful for that, because it allows me better perspective on this or whatever it is. So just because you as a leader or a coach, you don't see the immediate impact for your client right now, doesn't mean 2, 3, 4 years from now, your interactions with that person doesn't have that ripple effect. It doesn't have any effect on the person. Yeah. So I've tried to take that perspective.
That's a massive, like, thought process of, if not today, at least maybe tomorrow. Right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
fact.
Yeah, you did your job. You held up your end of the bargain, and that was give yourself to the person. That person may not be able to receive you that day, that information or whatever, but that doesn't mean a year down the road that boom, it clicks for them. Yeah.
Speaking of that transition from either taking knowledge or expertise or wisdom and transitioning in, if we can use today's platform and speak to the audience, folks that are listening, everyone from junior, like interns, trainers, coaches, general managers, individuals just getting ready, thinking, hey, when we come out of this COVID series, or when the time is right, and I want to make the stab at gym ownership, or I want to take the stab at the entrepreneurial step, is there any piece of wisdom or insight or like focus points that you would provide someone today that they can do, that they can listen to it today, they can file it away in their head, and maybe they can execute on it a year down the road?
Yeah, I mean, because it's such a broad topic, I would say specific to entrepreneurial dealings, I would say make sure you have clarity on what you want to accomplish, like as specific as you possibly can, and then don't lose sight of the focus. Try and block out as much of the noise as possible. With COVID, with the political landscape, with all the distractions with social media, being able to shut off the noise is a skill set now. And I think you need to focus on making sure that you can shut off the noise and bring clarity to your day-to-day projects, what you need to get done. And that's on a big scope. On a smaller scope for running a business, I would focus on reverse engineering everything, meaning don't start at the beginning of the funnel with marketing. Start at the back end of the funnel with how you're going to get your clients your results. Focus on making the best quality product or service, then focus on how it's going to be sold, then or delivered, and then focus on the marketing. Go from the back end forward. And I think that will help a lot of people problem solve things. I think too many people get caught up in the noise of social media and they focus on the marketing. And I think you're going to find the most successful businesses and the most impactful ones are the ones that have started on the opposite end of the pipeline.
Agreed. 100%, man. So for those individuals that have tuned in today, they've watched or they've been listening along and they're interested, maybe they want to pick your brain, maybe they want to, take a look and see what your training's looking like. How do they find you? Where can they find you? How can they reach out?
Well, I mean, if they're interested in the training, the pitiful things that I call fitness for myself, for Zach, Instagram. I've started posting a lot more on Instagram, kind of twofold: to hold myself accountable, but also to start building a platform that people can glean information from. So Zach_AF, it's my initials. So that's where they can see that stuff. But if they have questions about anything to do with leadership or entrepreneurial endeavors, Zach@PushPress.com. Shoot me an email. I'd love to help people. So can't promise that I'll get back to you within an hour, but I'll get back to you.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with our customer service team and their 3-minute response.
Oh my God, they are impressive, and
yeah,
I don't know how they do what they do. They are beyond impressive. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. For those individuals, like you said, that are interested, Zach, it's ZACH@pushpress.com, correct?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Brother, thank you so much for your time. I sincerely appreciate it.
Dude, love talking to you.